I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to IPREX, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, no other than Mr. Mike Swenson.
Hey, Daniel, how are you?
I'm fabulous, Mr. Mike. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. So I born and raised in the state of Kansas in the USA. Never lived anywhere else, but my career allowed me to travel all over the world, so that was perfect combination. I started out in broadcast journalism, which is what I thought I wanted to do my entire life, but took a little detour to get into politics and became press secretary for a governor here in the state of Kansas back in the 80s. And my next move was to get to Kansas City and work for a PR firm for about a year, and then went to an ad agency that wanted to start a PR firm in 1987. Started the PR firm there and grew it and ran it. Had great colleagues over 32 years before I decided it was time to retire and pass the baton off to somebody else. And now I'm talking about how companies need to focus on survival and be ready for crises when they happen.
Be ready for it, for sure. And today, let's talk about survive or else.
The notion of survival and survive seems very drastic, but at the same time in the world today, and whether you're in business or you're a nonprofit or you're running an educational institution, there's just so much going on, and there's a lot of turmoil in the world today, and a lot of things that we have to all figure out. And so when we're in these times of change, I like to think about the notion that followers wait for certainty, but leaders create certainty. And if a leader is willing to take that on and say, I need to create certainty for the people who work with me. I need to create certainty for my family. That's leadership. And how do you do that? Well, a lot of times what you have to do and be prepared for is that you have to understand in business or in life, bad things are going to happen to us. We've all in our own lives have had, crises occur. And the word crisis, sometimes it's blown up to something big, but it can also be something small. But the fact of the matter is, it's something that takes us off our game. It takes us away from the path we were on. And now we got to figure out how to get back on that path. But in the meantime, we got to solve this problem that came up. And so one of my passions that grew out of my 40 plus years in communications was helping to work with organizations to understand that, if you plan ahead of time, if you have a team in place, if you understand what can go wrong, if you understand what the first few steps you need to take in times of crisis, and you understand what you're going to say when a crisis hits, let's don't wait 90 minutes to figure out what the message is. If you have those four things in place, you're likely going to come out stronger and better on the other side. And that's survival, but then survival becomes not a defensive game like some people think it is. It's more of an offensive game. And that's how I like to think of crisis as an opportunity, huge opportunity for an organization to grasp a hold of the problem in front of them, own it, fix it, and move on.
Definitely. Let it go to survive or else. How does the concept move beyond cliche business survivalism to address the fundamental human instinct in today's volatile world?
Well, we've all heard the concept of fight or flight. And fight or flight means either you stay in the game and duke it out and win, or you retreat and move away. And maybe in some cases that might be the right thing to do. Probably not in most cases. It's better to get in, fix the problem, and make sure it doesn't happen again, more importantly. And I think, part of what, we've gotten to be with in the business world so focused on the quarter, how our stock is doing if we're a public company. For a private company, how our quarter is, quarter by quarter by quarter. And, leaders real leaders, I don't think that way. They think beyond the fact of just the day-to-day grind. It's more about, okay, what do we have to do? And this comes back to crisis, Daniel, in that, what do we have to do to make sure bad things don't happen? Do we have policies in place that are keeping us from moving ahead? Do we need some new policies and rules in place, or new approaches? Let's get away from policies, but new approaches to how we are running our business or running our organization, so that we can anticipate that, we know that these number of bad things could happen, but what if we could take one of those bad things and do something to prevent it from ever happening? And that's what we've always called real crisis management. Instead of just managing the crisis at hand and getting through it, it's more about fixing a problem before it happens and getting in front of it. And that's what we've always tried to focus on at the PR firm I was at. And then when I retired, I really kind of took this on as kind of my mission to kind of convince organizations that, it's a pretty simple thing to get in front of a crisis and be ready for it when it happens. If I'm waking up, if I'm running a company and I'm 4 a.m., the phone rings, one of two things is going to happen. If I'm prepared and I've got a crisis team in place and a crisis plan in place, that phone call at 4 a.m. is going to be the call from the leader of the crisis team saying, this has happened. Here's the steps we've already taken. Here's our messaging that we're putting out right away to get in front of it. And just want to make sure you're aware that we're on top of it. Or the call at 4 a.m. comes in from somebody in the company and says, hey, this just happened. What shall we do? And that's a big difference. And that's where leadership comes into play.
Mr. Mike, what is the critical psychological shift someone must make to move from passive hope to survive stance to an active survive or else determination?
I love the way you posed that question, because there are organizations and there's leaders out there who are passive and who wait, and their companies probably aren't growing. They're probably not expanding. If it's a nonprofit, it's probably not raising as much funds as they need to fulfill their mission. They may not be getting they may not be convincing the volunteers that, and putting the passion in place to say, hey, I want to volunteer for this nonprofit. And so that's passive leadership. And you just have to jump ahead and say, and it's not just jumping one step ahead, Daniel. I think sometimes real leaders, and I think you and I probably both been exposed to people over the years who not only took just a little step, but they took the big leap. They said, you know what, it may take me a long time to bring everybody along, but this is where we need to go. And if that kind of leadership and people believe in that kind of leader, they're going to come along, and they'll come along faster, and they'll get caught up faster than they will with a passive leader who is just kind of like plodding along, taking care of business day to day. And that kind of company may work, and it may go on and be, I wouldn't say successful, but it may be okay. But chances are there's a lot of turnover there because people aren't excited, they aren't inspired, they're not working for a leader that is saying, what else can we do? What's next? And I think the what's next thing is always a great question to ask.
What next, for sure, Mr. Mike. For when someone finds themselves in a true survive or else scenario, whether in their business or personal life, what are the first most critical actions they must take to stabilize the situation?
I think the most important thing for a leader to do in time of crisis is to, as I said earlier, is to own it. And here's what I mean by that. It's, there are case studies over the years of crises that have happened to a company, and the first step they took was to blame someone else, was to point fingers and say, well, this happened to us. This wasn't our fault. Well, the problem is that whoever they're pointing the fingers at, probably nobody knows who they are. Everybody knows who you are because it's your brand. It's your brand that the crisis is happening to. And a real leader will step up and say, okay, this happened to us, but we own it because we understand that it's our brand that you all are engaging with, buying, in case of a nonprofit, donating or working for. And we're going to fix this. Now, there may be other people involved that have helped create the crisis, but at the end of the day, it's our crisis, and we have to own it and we have to fix it. And it's always been my experience is those leaders who own it fast will come through the crisis and much faster. It'll be over with faster than if you don't own it and you kind of delay everything and then it just kind of keeps hanging on. And I'm sure you've seen that happen over the years as well.
Definitely. And how can someone train themselves to make clear, rational decisions under extreme pressure and with limited information?
Well, if I could put a plug in right now, is that all right? I think
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Mike.
would urge people to. Well, I would urge people to go to my LinkedIn profile, Mike Swenson 1 on LinkedIn, because there's a lot of free content there about crisis, and I put that out there so that people can engage with that at their leisure. But there's a lot of things they can learn from some of the content on there. There's case studies, there's lessons, there's things to be learned about how to manage crises. And then for those who are ready to take the next step of, okay, how do I put a crisis plan in place? If they go to crisistrack.com, which is CRISISTRAK, crisistrack.com, I've created 9 videos there, which they can purchase for under $1,000, and I spell out in detail how you can put your own crisis plan together. And if they run into a hurdle or they get stopped somewhere, I'd be happy to get on the horn with them on a Zoom like this or on the phone or whatever and help them through that process. But the process we created at the PR firm back in the 90s is so simple. It's 5 steps, and I've alluded to those earlier. And it's easy for a company to do that themselves of any size. And I'm really targeting smaller or medium-sized companies. The other thing, Daniel, that I really am, kind of talking more and more about is there may be somebody listening tonight that's ready to start a company. It's an entrepreneur. They've got a great idea. They're putting their business plan together. And I would just encourage them very strongly to put a crisis planning process in place in their business plan. Because I guarantee you, if they stand up in front of their investors or potential investors and present their business plan, and one plank of that business plan is, hey, we understand things are going to go wrong. Bad things can happen, but we've got a process in place that we're ready to put in place and handle that when it does happen. I think investors could be the linchpin to getting that person to invest in your idea. If they know that you've already thought about the fact that bad things can happen, and you got a way to fix it.
How can a leader project confidence and control their team during a survivor else moment, even if they are terrified internally?
No, and that's such an important point, because we think of all the other audiences we have. We have customers, we have prospective customers, we may have shareholders, We may have, vendors. The most important group is what you just said, Daniel, is the staff, the employees of that company. If a crisis happens at a company that I'm involved with, I'm going to be looking on to see how we're handling it. Now, I may be the newest hire. I may be the 23-year-old right out of school, and I just got hired on. So I'm just starting out. And then something bad happens at my company. And I'm looking on and seeing the leadership, how they're handling it. And the big thing for me is that 23-year-old newbie is somebody walks up to me and says, yeah, they pull the team together, the whole company together, and say, we got a crisis going on. Here's what's happened. Here's what we're doing to fix it. And here's what we're saying to everybody. So if anybody asks you about what's going on at your company, you've got something to say. And we're empowering our employees to go back home at night, and when their neighbors ask them what's going on, they have something to say. And that gives them confidence that I've made the right decision to work for this place, because something bad happened in my first month, and yet here they are handling it right, and makes me feel really good about what I've chosen to do and my first job I've chosen.
Mr. Mike, how does consciously envisioning and accepting the worst possible outcome?
That's what I think crisis planning is all about and I've been accused over the years of, I'll be in a meeting discussing something regarding a client business, just an internal meeting. And I'll be the one to say, well, let's talk about the worst things that can happen. Because if we address and can address the worst things that can happen, then we're covered, because anything else that happens all the way up to the worst thing, we know how to handle. We'll figure that out. But if we can figure out what's the worst thing that could happen with this product launch, what's the worst thing that could happen with this rollout of a new campaign for a new service, if we understand that this could happen when we roll this new product or service out, and we've addressed it and we've understood how we're going to handle it, then everything that happens short of that, we should be good to go. So it's always great. And that's what, to me, real crisis management is about, is what is the worst thing that can happen and how are we going to fix it?
How are we gonna fix it? For sure. In this scenario, survival often comes at a cost. How do you navigate the difficult trade-off and ethical dilemmas that arise when facing the ultimatum?
I think one of the things that, and there's a lot of, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world today. And I think sometimes there is and there's a lot of reasons why this has happened. But I think accountability has become a lost commodity almost. It's like I can just blame other people, or it's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. I'm not accountable. And I guess what I'm saying tonight in this discussion is the most important thing a leader has is their reputation. And the moment their reputation takes a hit and they don't manage it well, then they are losing credibility with all of their audiences, starting with their employees. They are, because they have not been accountable for what is going on, they've tried to just pass off the blame to other parties. Everybody's looking on and saying, what are we doing here? And I think that what I feel like we're losing and we need to get back is that notion of that ownership. When something goes wrong, it's mine, okay? And we're going to fix it. Regardless of how many other entities were involved, we have to understand how we can fix that problem, own it, be accountable, keep our credibility, in fact, improve our credibility with all of our audiences. And to me, it comes back to taking ownership and accountability.
Accountability indeed. And Mr. Mike, what can individuals and businesses do today to build the financial, operational, and emotional buffers that can prevent a situation from becoming an or else scenario?
Yeah, and it gets back to my idea of real crisis management. And real crisis management means we're not going to wait for something to happen and then deal with it. It's like, let's start looking at our business across the board. Are we doing everything exactly the way we should be doing it? Are we operating in a proper manner across the board? Are we treating our people the best we can treat them in terms of employees and staff? Are we addressing our customers' needs the best we can? Are we promoting ourselves to prospective customers the best we can in terms of how we operate? And we're not just talking the talk, but we're walking the walk. And through that kind of process, you may identify, okay, we may be able to change something, a policy, a rule, an approach, that by changing that and shifting how we deal with something, we may prevent a crisis from ever happening. That, to me, is the best model that a company could have, is that they're always looking out for how can we stop something from ever happening before it happens, and then we have to deal with it. And so I think that's, to me, again, that's what I'm talking about, that type of leader who's not just simply looking a step ahead or two steps ahead, but that leader who's going down the road and saying, where do we want to be 2 years, 3 years from now? And do we have hurdles in the way? Do we have potential crises that could come up because of our business, the business we're in? Certain things could happen. How do we keep those from happening? And then look at ourselves 3 to 5 years down the road, and we're not only successful, but we're wildly successful. And that's the type of leadership we're looking for: ownership, accountability, and looking way down the road to say, what kind of company, what kind of organization do we want to be? And how do we keep the best and brightest people within our organization? How do we attract and keep the best customers? And how are we always got, our pipeline of prospective customers is always full, because we're a company that everybody trusts. We have the credibility and accountability, and we're doing everything the right way.
And what are their common traits, Mr. Mike? A specific mindset, a particular skill set that you see in people who consistently navigate these high stakes scenarios successfully?
To people who survive, and survive, sometimes is sounds kind of desperate, but actually surviving is what we're all doing every day. And so if you put a different kind of positive spin on it, surviving is the ability to keep stretching, to keep looking down the road, and know that regardless of the crises that happen, we have a process in place to protect us when bad things do happen. So I'm not going to worry about that anymore as a leader, because I put that in place. Now I can look beyond that and go down the road. And my point of now survival is, okay, how am I going to make sure we're still around in 5 years, 10 years? What do I need to be doing way down the road? And that's the kind of inspirational leadership that people are looking for, that they want to work for, and the type of inspirational leadership that people want to buy from, or in the case of a nonprofit, want to donate to and volunteer for. Always looking down the road. And so survival should not be just considered as this kind of defensive, I got to just hang in there and hopefully everything will be okay. It's more about, no, survival is, I want to survive. I want to be around 10 years from now. I want to be surviving 5 or 10 years from now. So what do I need to do to make sure that happens?
Mr. Mike, very well said. Totally empowering. So what is one question people can ask themselves right now to gauge their current preparedness for a sudden crisis?
Well, if you're getting ready to put your head on the pillow and the phone rings at 4 o'clock and you're the head of an organization, what is that call going to be? Is it going to be the call from your crisis team leader saying everything's under control? Or is it going to be the call that is saying, what do we do? Because we have not put anything in place. And now it's up to me as the leader, because I didn't have the foresight to put a plan in place, put a team in place to take care of things when bad things happen. Now we're in chaos. We don't have messages. We don't know what we're going to say to anybody. And in this day and age, Daniel, you and I know as well as anybody, we're sitting here talking, live on our computers, and news travels this fast. If one of us had a crisis right now, we'd be experiencing it in real time. So I want to know that when I get that call at 4 a.m., I'm a leader that I'm going to hear on the other end of the phone a calm, reasoned voice saying, "We've got this, boss."
We got this, boss. That's awesome, Mr. Mike. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please listen to my other podcast, people, because my Abstract Essay is already in 5th season, Abstract Poetry in 2nd season, and my Book 101 review in 5th season too. Comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my Food 101 in 5th season as well. Geography 101 in its 4th season, and my Baby Podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in 3rd season, and Movie 101 review and Music 101 in 4th season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Mike, if you could leave the audience of viewers with one fundamental principle for facing any survive or else moment in their lives, what would it be?
Own it as quickly as possible. When something goes wrong, take ownership, take responsibility. And I guarantee you that if you do that, it'll be over faster than it would be otherwise. It may not seem like that at the time, but I guarantee you that that kind of ownership creates the credibility and trust that you want to have out there as a leader.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Mike Swenson. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, your business, or anything that you want to promote?
2 places. Go on LinkedIn and look up Mike Swenson 1. There's a lot of content there about crisis and crisis management. And then crisistrack.com, TRAK, is where you can purchase your way to having a crisis plan in place for your organization, very easily and simply.
Simple, but easy, people. Go to LinkedIn account of Mr. Mike Swenson. So, Mr. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.